Welcome to the Logic and Life Coaching Podcast, episode 74.
Everyone wants happiness and success, and we know how to get you there. Come listen to the Leadership Society of Arizona as we teach a proven logic to help you simplify life, overcome challenges, and predict the future. You're listening to the Logic and Life Coaching Podcast.
Welcome to the Logic and Life Coaching Podcast. My name is Chuck Solanas, and I'm joined by our special guest. You are still a guest, Dr. Jacob Kashiwagi. Anyway, let's go on to another continuation on this series on influence. When it comes to actions, so if a child who was a failure becomes successful after a person talks to them and helps them to understand, is that influence, or did that person bring the help that they needed in that time in their life?
Well, here's the thing, is the idea of influence is who controlled that interaction. Did this person to motivate the individual come into this person's life randomly? Or was there something connected with this person and this person who motivated them? And what we have found is there's always a connection between a person and whoever comes in from the outside to talk with this person. And this person always drives it. So historically, evidence-wise, this person always controls the interaction. And you just take like a classroom. When I'm teaching and I taught a lot of students, and a lot of students come back and say, you motivated me to do this and that. But the reality of it is, who picked the class? The student did. Who came to class that day? The student did. Not all the students came to class that day, but they did. Who didn't fall asleep in that class and actually heard what I was saying? Well, that's all dependent upon the student. Many students were sleeping. Who actually heard my words and listened to them and understood them? It was a student's capability that allowed them to do that. And so I remember this one time I was in a class myself when I was going through my undergrad degree, and it was actually this religion class on Buddhism and Shintoism. And I'm not Buddhist or Shinto, but it's my history. I'm Japanese, and Shintoism is a Japanese religion. So I was interested in my culture. So I'm listening to this, and they're explaining the idea of nirvana, this professor. And he explained it really well that I actually understood what was going on, and it motivated me quite a bit. But I'm looking around, and the person right next to me sleeping. Most everybody else is like wandering off, looking at their phone, whatever it might be. And I'm over there having like this great enlightening experience. Right? And so it really, the professor has no control over that. They have no control over who goes into their class, or, who's paying attention to them. And so they have no influence on the students, but the students who are in the right place at the right time because of who they are, listening to this person, will become very motivated, right? And so that is, even though they needed this person, they controlled it. And that's why I don't consider it influence. Does that make sense?
It does, but it kind of doesn't that discount what you are saying as a teacher, right? Like some people would think that discounts your value as a teacher. You're saying that the person in and of themselves, as a teacher or as a parent or as any role model, you're saying that the value of that person is minimized. The value of the student is maximized.
Well, first off, as a teacher or a parent, always the person who's the most valuable in this situation is always a student and is always a child. It's never me. But it doesn't diminish my value at all. I just can't take credit for the child, right? And what the child does or the student does with that. But I take credit for my teaching capability. For example, when I follow correct teaching principles and I'm a really good teacher, even though I have no influence or impact on the students, a good teacher, a good trainer, a good parent always attracts who? Good students, good players, good children. And so that's why when you look at teachers, some teachers seem to get students that are very intelligent, go off and do great things, are able to make a big impact on the world. I don't take credit for each individual, but I do take credit for the fact that my teaching attracts many students, that many students want to come to hear me, that many people come to hear me and they go off and do great things. And that's why people always look for teachers that are really good, right? Because even though I can't take accountability for what my students do, I take accountability for what I do, right? And so when a teacher is good, like at a college or university, many different universities will want me because of my value, because I attract so many students to their school, or because so many students want to learn from me and research under me. And so it doesn't diminish my value as a teacher if I have no influence over the students, because I still take credit for being a good teacher.
So based off of what you're saying, if you're getting, quote, bad students or bad children in front of you, does that necessarily state that you're a bad parent, bad teacher, bad role model?
Well, if you have 8 children, all these children are turning out to be like murderers, yeah, there might be something you want to look at in what you're doing, right? If you have, like, you got 5 children and a couple of them, have stolen or whatnot, and 3 of them are outstanding, I mean, then you're looking at, hey, it might not be all you, right?
Well, so you're saying, and that's why a lot of people get confused about influence, because it's like if your children are a certain way or end up a certain way, you're thinking that's on me.
Yes, you can't think that way. It's not on you in terms of what they're doing, but there's always connection between someone and everything that's around them, right? And so if you're continually going through something or continually having a certain type of people come around you, even though you're not controlling these people, it's telling you something about what you're doing. So there is something an introspection here. Because even though you don't control them and you can't take accountability for what they do, well, you have to take accountability for what you're doing and who you're drawing and what's going on in your own life.
I remember you did in one of your classes, you brought a diagram of O.J. Simpson and all the people that were around him. Do you remember that?
Yes, it was an article actually, and we just took it, and there's just like, you start seeing that O.J. Simpson had a lot of people with criminal history around him, which what I found was really interesting.
So you're saying that because he was a criminal at heart, he attracted those criminals around him, brought them into his life.
I'm not saying anything in terms of who he was or who they are. What I'm just saying is that birds of a feather seem to flock together. And there's a reason, why O.J. Simpson has the people around him that he does. For whatever connection that is, there's always a correlation between it. And it always deals with something you're doing is attracting something that all these people around you seem to be drawn towards.
So you're saying that if a person is attracting a lot of certain feathers, right? And you're wondering, why am I drawing certain feathers? Like a lot of dramatic people, for example.
Yeah.
A lot of dramatic people are all around me. Why is this? Why is this constantly happening to me? No matter where I go, all these dramatic people are around me. You're saying that it's the individual that brings those people into their life, not so much that the other people are being dramatic and that's affecting them, but
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, this is a very good news and not so good news for some people. The good news is if at one point in your life you're seeing all these people that you don't really like, because it's not random, because there's a connection, you actually can do something to change that. That you can actually change the people who are coming into your life if you adjust your actions, adjust what you're doing, what you're thinking. If it was random, then there's no way to get rid of these people. Because if it's random, it's just there's no logic for them to be there, hence there's no solution to get rid of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're saying because it's not random, your actions determine whether they stay or go.
Yes, there's a way to adjust to get rid of these people. If you want. Okay. Or to keep.
Okay. And the solution is?
Well, you have to, that's for each person to figure out. That's the key to life. You have to figure out what the connection is. And for everyone, the connection might be a little bit different. See, the key is not making the wrong connection. Right? So many times we make the wrong connection with why people are in our lives. Say, oh, my parents are in my life to make my life miserable. No, that's a wrong connection. You have to figure out what the actual right connection is, right? And that will help you.
Okay, going into that example, are the parents supposed to be role models for their kids then?
Are parents supposed to be role models? I don't know how to answer that question. To be a role model, you have to be a person who your kid wants to be like. But that's not for a parent to determine. That's for the child to determine who they want to be like. So say the child wants to be like a cyber thief, and their parent is an honest person. Well, for that parent to be a role model to their child, they have to learn how to program and how to use a computer and how to steal from other people through that. Right? I don't know if that's the best thing.
Yeah, but like at the end of the day, if you're like a really honest person and you're having a child that becomes a cyber thief, doesn't it seem like there's a disconnect of some sort?
That's why I mean you have to figure out what the connection is. Right? There's a reason why that parent had that child. Right? And that child is with that parent. It could be because a parent needs to learn and wants to learn patience and love for everybody. And what better way to have a child who, wants to become a cyber thief? It could be that child has this parent because that parent understands enough to that when this all unfolds, that the child loves the parent and the parent loves the child, and they figure out the relationship. So when the child does go out and do something crazy, like steal from someone through, computer technology, that it's the parent who is able to help the child get back on their feet and figure out what to do after that and how to fix their life around.
Well, it just gets like, so you're saying the people around you must match who you are, right?
The people around you have a connection with who you are, that you drive them into your life. So for example, and I think we've talked about this before, it's like you might drive people who are smoking into your life, but you might not smoke. So obviously the smoking is not the connection, right? But there might be another connection. There might be another characteristic of who you are that drives people who smoke towards you. You have to find the right connection. All I'm saying is there's always a connection between who you're driving towards you and who you are.
I guess, I mean, yeah, that makes sense. It's just like I'm trying to think of a way in which you can explain basically all situations, the natural law behind it, right? So you're saying birds of a feather flock together, but not necessarily, because the connection could be different than what you're thinking. And so I'm hearing a lot of exceptions.
No, birds of a feather always flock together, but you just have to understand what makes them flock together. What is the connection of the flock, right? That's what you do need to figure out. But that natural law is always true. The natural law is basically stating everyone who comes around you has some type of connection with who you are. I'm not saying what that connection is. And I'm saying many times people get what the connection is wrong, but there is a connection.
Okay, so you're saying parents are not responsible for being role models to their children because the children determine the role models. You're saying that the connection around you is determined based off of, there needs to be at least one connection to the people that are around you. And with that connection, you could get it wrong a lot of times. But based off of who you are, you can change how they interact with you as well, I'm sure.
Well, if you find out what's connecting you to someone, why you're attracting these people, then you can figure out if you keep doing it, you'll keep attracting that type of person. And if you stop doing it or change what you're doing, then you attract a different type of person.
Or could you attract a different interaction from that person? So
also do that.
Right, because like if you're personally changing, then your ideas, your thoughts are going to change towards the other people around you as well.
That is true.
Okay. All right. Well, just thinking about these things, I don't know. Of course, I'm asking these questions because I don't know how to explain it as clearly. And I don't know if we've even gotten to a level of clarity that our viewers or audience will like. But
well, I hope we have.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much, Dr. Jacob. Thank you, listeners, for listening, and viewers for watching. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you for listening to the Logic and Life Coaching Podcast. It would be great if you could take a moment to write us a review. For any questions, comments, or topics that you would like to have addressed on the show, email the team at leadaz.org. To learn more about the Leadership Society of Arizona, visit us at leadaz.org.